Shalom and welcome back. We are going through the so-called 613 laws of the Torah, plucking out the ones that have been added by Judaism in order to decipher which commandments we should be keeping today. If you've been following along on my blog, you'll find one asterisk by the laws that need to be omitted completely, as they were pretty much made up by rabbis or repeated. That is, one law stated two times. You'll find two asterisks by the laws where the scripture it's based on says something slightly different or completely different. So that law needs to be changed to fit the scripture. And you'll find three asterisks by the laws that can no longer be kept today, either because there needs to be a temple in place in order to keep it, or the law itself has expired, or it's a one-time law. Once we've done it, it's complete. We don't need to do it again. So far, we've gone over 21 laws in the previous video, rather quickly and painlessly, I hope. Already we've seen two of those laws, number 8 and number 10, need to be changed from what Judaism claims them to be, because the scripture says different. And one of those 21 laws needs to be completely omitted, law number 17, because it was made up by rabbis and has no scriptural basis at all. So although we've reviewed 21 laws, there was actually 20 true laws within them. There will be many more laws like this one to come, and you'll see very quickly how the number 613 decreases. And again, I urge you to visit my blog site where I teach the laws in greater detail. So let us continue on with more commandments. I will give you these first two verbally. Laws number 22 and 23, which fall under the umbrella of Torah study. Law number 22 simply says to learn the Torah. So if you're here with me today taking notes and visiting my blog, I commend you because you are being obedient to this command in your attempt to do so. This command is found in Deuteronomy 6, verse 7, and it implies we should have been learning them as children because it says, teach the laws diligently to thy children. Talk about them when you're sitting around the house or walking, when you lie down or rise up. We should be immersing ourselves and our kids in the laws. But because of our current condition as a people, we have been away from obedience for generations. And many of us are still fighting the idea of the law not being done away with. Christianity has taught us the standards of the Most High are not important. So we're wiping our mental slate clean and walking under a new understanding now. So let's make certain we pass these commands on to our children so the next generation can walk in that same obedience. And law number 23 says to honor those who teach and know the Torah, and is based on Leviticus 19, verse 32. It actually says to honor the elderly. So this is telling us the elderly, ideally, would know the commandments, and we would honor them and their knowledge. But many of our elderly have no idea what the laws are. So we're it. We must be the elderly in wisdom for those who are learning. We need to learn so that we may teach others. So now let's get into a series of laws that fall under idolatry and paganism, starting with law number 24. So we're halfway through the idolatry and paganism laws, and you get the point. Don't turn to idols. Don't follow the fascinations of your eyes. That may lead you to idolatry. Don't minimize the reverence you have for the Most High. Why? Because diminishing Him will lead you to edifying someone or something else, which leads to idolatry. Likewise, don't speak negatively of the Most High. When you see someone or something is idolized, don't participate in worshiping them. Don't bow down to these things or to these people. You saw I put one asterisk by law number 28, which states not to worship idols in the four ways we worship the Most High. Now, I searched high and low for these four ways that we are supposedly to worship the Most High. Now, if you guys can fill me in on what they are, please do. But to my knowledge, these four ways are traditions, not biblical requirements. The law itself is based on Exodus 20, verse 5, which says nothing about four ways of worship. It says, "Thou shalt not bow down thyself to idols or serve them." So this is an example of a made-up law added to the commandments by Judaism that should not have been. This is the second law we see that needs to be omitted from the so-called 613. We get down to law number 31, and you see I've placed two asterisks by it. It says not to make human forms, even for decoration. But the scriptural reference for this law is in Exodus 20, verse 20, and it doesn't say anything about this. But if you read down to verse 23, we see what would be the scriptural reference, which says, "Ye shall not make gods of silver, neither shall you make unto you gods of gold." So, slight change in the scriptural reference only. Same thing with law number 33. Deuteronomy 13:17 doesn't command us to burn an idolatrous city. But if we go back and read verse 16, the command is found there. So again, slight change in scriptural reference only. But this is important because studiers need to be able to see it in scripture. So the reference has to be correct. Now we can say this law is an actual command because we see the scripture that backs it up. So let's take a look at laws number 37 and 38. Law number 37 says not to love the missionary. And a missionary is one who promotes paganism. Law number 38 says not to cease from hating the missionary. So is it me, or do these two laws say the exact same thing? Not to love, not to cease from hating, it means the same thing. So law number 38 is a good example of a law that repeats itself and needs to be omitted. We have enough laws to tend to. We don't need multiple commandments. You may find instances of laws repeated throughout Scripture, say 50 times. That doesn't mean it's 50 laws. That means it's one law stated 50 times. Okay, so moving on, let's look at law number 42. Similar issue. Law number 42, it says not to prophesy in the name of idolatry. So we've seen this law already. We've seen it in command number 36. Do not missionize an individual to idol worship, which means the same as prophesying or influencing others in the name of idolatry. Prophesying, missionizing in the name of idolatry, it's the same thing. So this is another example of a repeat, and it too needs to be omitted. Now we're getting into more controversial law with command number 45, when we are commanded not to be afraid to kill the false prophet. I have 3 asterisks next to this law, which means it can no longer be kept, and I'll tell you why. Every law given to the nation of Israel was to help govern them not only in the wilderness, but particularly once they entered their land. The command to kill or stone was not uncommon. We descend from a nation of warriors who fought many nations to be who they were, and stoned individuals to remain who they were. Anyone who caused sin to come upon the nation was either stoned or removed from the nation of Israel. We were not punks. We were serious about our God, who our God established us to be. And we stood for that. And everyone around us knew it. And they feared us because of it. You need to understand that, because today, for those of us who reside in America, we are punks. We're fearful because We come from generations of fearful ancestors whom fear was embedded into and then passed down to us. We can't even conceive a day when we carried armor every day, just in case. The nation of Israel has always been a nation of warriors, period. So don't be alarmed when you see this type of command. We were commanded to kill the nations who resided in the land so we could overtake it. So that's truth, controversial, but truth. Now, that being said, Jeremiah 31 introduces a new covenant, one where forgiveness and mercy enters into the covenant for the nation. And I know some of my viewers don't believe the Messiah is a manifestation of that forgiveness, but I do. And I teach it very thoroughly. And if you're still on the fence about that, please take some time to watch my videos, The Messiah to Follow or Not to Follow. And that can help shine some light on the question of the one they call Jesus or Yahusha. I believe he was sent, and because of that, we live in an era of the renewed covenant, I call it, according to Jeremiah 31, where obedience is on our hearts and grace and mercy awaits us if we sin. We live in a day where if we fall short of the commands, forgiveness meets us where judgment used to. So instead of getting stoned, we are forgiven. Instead of being killed because of our sin, we are met with grace. And moreover, we are scattered. This is very important because we were once 1,000,000 strong in our land. And now we're here and there in another land, and half of us don't even know who we are. So even if this command was applicable today, it's not feasible. The war is no longer against people. It's in our own mind. The fight is against all of the false knowledge we've been fed about the Bible and about our own selves, who we are and where we come from. For generations, we've been watching other nations carry our title, walking around with our identity. This is our struggle today. So all of that to say, the command to kill false prophets, along with any other command to kill someone who's fallen short of the law, can no longer be kept. And thank goodness, because we're all worthy of death today. We've all fallen short. And one last thing, looking at idolatry in today's context, as we are dispersed in various countries today, our idols are no longer the obvious golden calf or statues of false gods. It's difficult to determine where the thin line is between identifying images, such as pictures, and idol images, like statues and monuments. But the rule of thumb is any image becomes an idol when it is exalted or worshipped. Idols in the biblical days were expected to provide answers, power, blessings, protection. Today, people worship money because it represents power and providence. It's not the money that's the idol, but the love of money that makes it so. People are worshiping name brands. They got to have it because it's attached to popular people. And somehow possessing that brand will make you powerful too. They're worshiping luxuries, fancy cars, and staying in nice hotels, living in big, oversized, and overpriced homes because they represent an image of wealth. Again, nothing wrong with having a big house or a nice car if you truly can afford it and need it. But know that image is not everything. Wealth is a virtue that begins on the inside. For the Israelites, our wealth has always been contingent upon our obedience to the Most High, and initially had nothing to do with money. Riches came afterwards. We were slaves in Egypt with only our faith to get us out, and He's been leading us ever since to what we needed to get by. We simply desire to possess what the Most High gives, nothing more, nothing less. And if He gave us much, great. If He gave us little, thy will be done. Our idols today are not golden statues. For many of us, our idol is money. We've been taught to live and die for it, to work like a dog for it in between living and dying. Be careful, Israel, if money has become your idol. The Most High will provide as promised, but He is your source, not that piece of paper. He can give you what you need and more if you keep your eyes stayed on Him. Wherever you may live today, we are commanded to cleave to the ideals of the law and not the customs of the people we live among. Remember that. So we've gone over 46 laws so far in the first two videos combined. 5 of these 46 laws needed to be changed slightly, either to fit their scriptural reference or the scripture they were based upon needed to be changed. 4 of these 46 laws have been completely omitted, either because there is no scriptural basis for them, meaning they were added by Judaism as a tradition but cannot be called a law, or they are repeats of a law previously stated. Deuteronomy 12:32 says, "Do not add or take away from the commandments." So keep in mind, when I'm omitting these 4 laws so far, these are not actual laws. These are customs that should have never been added in the first place. So I'm attempting to get down to the pure Torah commands without Judaic additions. So far, that number 613 has decreased to 609. Don't forget to visit my blog for further commentary on these commands. There's only so much I can go over in a video, but my blog site is much more detailed when it comes to certain topics. I will return soon with another set of laws for you guys. In the meantime, please take this time to watch my previous videos if you haven't already, and study and learn the laws I've presented so far. Thank you all for watching. Until next time, Shalom.